This week is going to be crazy for AI stock investors as we have earnings from Cipher, Navitas, Astera Labs, Supermicro, and so many others. And on today's episode, I want to take a closer look at what the market is expecting and what you as an AI investor should know. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so this is pretty much big earnings week for AI companies that are expected to be growing with the AI space, right? Yet last week was the big tech players. We had your Amazon, your Google, your Microsoft, your Meta, and they all said the same thing. Pretty much capital expenditure is continuing to rise, and the amount of investment going into AI solutions is real. Now, to this week, I think it's going to be a little bit different. We know that the AI spending is growing. But this week, we get to see who that money is going to and who is winning all in this overall AI race. We get to see where that money is going, and we get to determine who the winners and who the losers are. Now, on today's episode, I really just want to focus on these four because I do believe they give us a little different impact of how the market is transforming, right? Cipher Mining is going to be one of those crypto miners turned hyperscalers or building AI infrastructure. You have Navitas, which is really focusing on partnerships with NVIDIA, which is also focusing in these massive transformation to 800-volt data centers. You have Astera Labs, which is focusing a lot in the connectivity of these AI chips. And you have Supermicro, a company that's really focusing on forms of the AI servers and AI infrastructure. Now, the reason I'm not covering AMD in this episode is because, like I mentioned, tomorrow I will be doing an AMD weekly, and we will be looking at those earnings previews. Now, I have this pretty cool slideshow, and I hope you guys enjoyed the slideshow, all thanks to whatthechipHappened.com, right? If you're not familiar, this channel is really focused on the chip and the semiconductor market. So make sure to check out the overall whatthechip.com website. So for upcoming earnings. So we're, like I mentioned, Cipher Mining, November 3rd, pre-market, Navitas, November 3rd, post-market, Astera Labs, November 4th, post-market, and Supermicro, November 4th, post-market. And all of them are in the AI market with being different players, right? That's the crucial thing about these. These are all different players. Now, let's start off with Cipher Mining. So Cipher Mining is expected to see massive growth, $78.6 million in revenue. That would be about a 226% year over year and about an 80% quarter over quarter growth, driven by the Black Pearl data center coming online. Now, earnings per share based on analyst expectations is all over the place. Main reason is not many companies and not many analysts are really following it, and they don't really have it's such a volatile space, going from that crypto mining to becoming some form of a small data center power shell company. It's very hard to kind of determine and try to find a proper estimate. So they are all over the place. But regardless, revenue is expecting massive year over year revenue growth of roughly $78.6 million. Now, for each company, I want to take a closer look at three recent deals. One of the first ones for Cipher Mining was the Google-backed AI deal, which they signed a transformative 10-year $3 billion AI hosting deal with FluidStack, and Google is backstopping $1.4 billion of the lease. Now, another thing is $1.1 billion of convertible notes were just closed and upside at zero interest notes, offering the fund to the AI build out at its Barber Lake facility. And the third thing that just happened on October 30th, which was 2 days ago, there was a special meeting which had the share increase proposal. It was a vote to double authorized shares to 1 billion to provide financial flexibility for the capital intensive AI strategy. Now, some people see that and see, wow, that's a massive dilution of shares. Remember, authorized shares does not equal outstanding shares. Authorized shares allows them to make kind of these contracts that potentially can dilute the shares if they don't pay back, or maybe the customer decides to fulfill some of these warrants or kind of open up some of these option grants that they get. But it just gives them the opportunity to have more flexibility in financial to pretty much invest more in the AI space. We don't have an answer yet on that vote. Maybe we might hear more about it on Monday's earnings. Now, If you want to stay ahead of the curve, make sure to check out and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 85,000 subs by the end of the year. But if you really want to get into the community, I would 100% say check out whatthechip.com. You can join my newsletter where I send a newsletter about 2 times a week. And we have over 4,000 insiders right now looking into that newsletter. Subscribe completely for free. Or if you want to join a community, I'm building a community right now and it's growing pretty quickly. Right now, because I am just building it, I have a founding member offer where you get 50% off your annual subscription and you get grandfathered in as long as you stay subscribed and use the code intro, right? So right now, once we hit 100 members, we're about closing into 70. Yesterday, we were at 50 or 60. It's growing pretty quickly. Once we get 100 members, I am going to start removing this offer. This was only for founding members. And once the foundation has been built for this community, I'm going to remove this offer. And this is the best offer that's ever going to happen on that community. And remember, we have some crazy earnings. There, you're going to get analysts on my deep dives on a lot of these companies that are reporting earnings. This is all I do all day, right? I breathe and eat semiconductor and AI investing. I research, I read all the transcripts, I listen to all the interviews, and that's the type of information that I'm going to be providing in that community. So make sure to check it out at whatthechiphappened.com. Now let's get back to the slideshow, right? So we're going to look at Navitas. So Navitas has seen a massive growth in stock. And actually, let's look at that real quick. Cipher Mining up about 286% year to date. Navitas up 285% year to date. Astera Labs up roughly 38% year to date. Supermicro up roughly 72% year to date. Now, the reason I wanted to show the stock price is because it gives us an indication that the market is very excited about these companies. And when you're very excited, if you don't meet the expectations, that excitement can turn sour really, really quickly. So it is important to understand what could happen. Now with Navitas, we saw a massive over 200, almost 300% return. Navitas, $10 million in revenue. This is something that worries me a little bit about Navitas, right? The market expects massive growth, but what they guided is not that. This is actually the number that they guided as well, $10 million plus or minus, I think like a few percentage up and down, but that would represent a 54% drop year over year and a 31% drop quarter over quarter. Now, there are some interesting reasons, right? There's headwinds for the China market. There's also the weak EV and industry market. And they recently just kind of divested and started to stop doing a low margin business in the mobile side. So all of them make sense, but a lot of excitement has been coming with the NVIDIA deal recently. And if they give us these numbers of these crazy year-over-year drops and quarter-over-quarter drops, it could definitely create this massive sell-off, in my opinion, on Navitas. So you're going to want to keep a closer eye on what they say. Now, earnings per share, they do expect it to be at a loss, but it is a bit of an improvement compared to the same time last year. Now, some major news for Navitas. The first thing is the NVIDIA partnership. We kind of saw that they unveiled new power solutions for the 800-volt AI factory platforms earlier this month, right? So they unveiled that. We have to see more revenue opportunities coming from that during the earnings call. If not, investors are not going to be happy. They did appoint a new CEO from Renaissance to lead the pivot toward AI data centers and energy infrastructure. That happened in September. And they also earlier this quarter, they mentioned that they had an 8-inch GaN manufacturing partner with PowerChip to transition GaN from 6-inch to 8-inch wafers, which obviously helps things with margin. And they're addressing this plan to exit TSMC. So this is execution risk and execution risk, right? Changing manufacturing is very risky, but they had to do it. Any changes here could obviously create volatility in the stock if we hear things are either going good or going bad. Next, we have Astera Labs. Astera Labs is massive growth expected. Revenue, $206 million, up about 82% year over year and up about 8% quarter over quarter. Non-GAAP earnings per share is expected to see a nice year over year growth, but unfortunately, decline on a quarter over quarter. A few things to understand about Astera Labs. First, they did acquire a company called AI Xscale Photonics, which helps with bringing fiber to chip photonics coupling in-house. And this is something that's going to help chip communication, which is what Astera Lab does. And it's going to help for next generation AI labs. So it was a great acquisition. Now, they did have a partnership to combine connectivity platforms with ARM Neoverse for custom chiplet-based AI designs. Another great deal where in the future, you're going to have that kind of internal base communication and connectivity. Astera Labs is working with that. Now, in OCP, which is a crucial conference, the stock went down because we're seeing a lot of people and a lot of AI chips removing themselves from PCIe and using things like UA Link and some of the other type of communication solutions for your CPU to GPU. And the market is getting a little bit scared. Now, Astera Labs has mentioned, look, we're partners with PCIe with not a real partnership, but they focus on PCIe 6 and the next generation. They have partners and they're working with UA Link, CXL stuff as well. So they reinforce their ties with the strengthness of the next generation of AI servers and the next generation of AI connectivity. Now, if any slowdown in PCIe creates a slowdown in revenue here, Astera Labs can definitely see some pain. But I do believe based on what they're working on, the long term, there's still opportunity. The short term could be extremely noisy, especially with the heavy competition in this space. Now, the final one, we have Supermicro. Supermicro, $5 billion in revenue forecasted. They gave us the preliminary results that slashed revenue forecast dramatically. Originally, it was roughly $6 to $7 billion. This would be about a 16% down year over year, about a 13% quarter over quarter, and a massive drop in earnings per share. Now, the good thing, within the cut, even though they mentioned a cut in revenue for this quarter, they did announce that they saw massive win upgrades, pushing deliveries to quarter two. The company secured $12 billion in design win. Now, the question is, how will this be recognized as revenue? Would it be quarter two revenue? Would it be quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four? It's great to get a little bit more insight about that. They also mentioned that the Blackwell Ultra, which is NVIDIA's new generation, is shipping at large-scale shipments already for the B300 and the GB300. They also did announce Supermicro Federal LLC to expand into the U.S. government market with U.S.-based manufacturing. So those are the four stocks that I think are going to be crucial. We learned what the market is expecting and what are some of the recent things to go about. Now, all three stocks, like we saw, have seen massive growth in the past year or so, or year to date. Any hiccups and any declines here, you will have massive sell-offs, in my opinion. With Cipher Mining, I'm honestly not sure. This one can go either way. If I may give my personal thoughts, and again, I could be wrong, but I feel like Navitas, based on those number projections of revenue of roughly $10 million and down roughly 50% year over year, I could see a potential sell-off from the prices that we're at right now. But if they mention some great traction about the NVIDIA partnership, that can undermine any revenue stuff. But if management doesn't really share much with that NVIDIA partnership, then the stock, in my opinion, has a chance to see some massive drop. Now, Astera Labs, I think this one is a coin flip. The stock has seen a nice pull down since its overall highs, and I like that. I don't own Astera Labs, but I would say if it does drop after reporting earnings, this would be one on my top priority list to learn a lot more from. Now, Supermicro is getting that excitement. We see that massive capital expenditure, the guidance that they give us, right? You cut your revenue for this quarter, but what can you tell us for next quarter? And you better not change that next quarter, right? So guidance is going to be crucial for Supermicro, especially since we heard all those massive CapEx growth from every single player. Even though those big players have their own form of server buildouts, they don't go with Supermicro. It's a great indication of how the market is moving. So it should be a great indication for Supermicro. Now, again, it's all about guidance and it's telling us about inventory. Since people moved out more projects, do they have to write off certain inventory that they had even more? And how will the market react towards that? Regardless, this is going to be a crazy, crazy week for earnings in the semiconductor space, in the AI space. And like I mentioned, once we hit 100 members in the What the Chip Happened community, that's not going to have an offer of 50% off the annual subscription. So make sure to check out whatthechip.happened.com. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.